Hey, good morning, folks. How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday. All right. Hope you got your coffee. Got mine here. Good morning, D-Lady. Or DL Day. Oh my goodness. It's hard to get those letters together sometimes. DL Day. Trisaurus. There's always time for more, though. More coffee. And I figured this thing out. I was super excited. They have like some default animations. Yeah, so Mike, you found it there. I've got coffee jitters now. It's my regular coffee emote, but it shakes. So I guess if you have too much coffee, maybe you get that one. Yeah, or just the regular coffee one for sure. So I thought these are a lot of fun. So let's see if I can get the other one. There's the jitter one. And here's the regular one. So today's a bit of a review day. Going through the basics here, and I want to spend a little bit of time specifically around debugging. That is one of the most helpful things that you can do when you're having trouble with your program. If something's not doing what you expect, to debug your program or run it in debug mode is just fantastic. So let me fire up Netbeans here. It'll take just a second. Maybe I should have done that earlier. And we'll look at that, look at some other basics, and then next week we're going to get into arrays and array lists out of chapter 12, and then file input and output operations. And that'll be the focus of our first project, or project 0, working with file input and output, and arrays and array lists. So we do all sorts of fun stuff there. So today's a bit of a review. We'll have a lab on just some of the fundamentals, doing some debugging here. I want to get you comfortable using the tools. I saw some chatter. Not everyone loves Netbeans, and that's okay. It is not my favorite tool for sure, but it gets the job done. If there's a different IDE that you like, you're welcome to use it. There's a couple shortcuts in Netbeans that I think are really nice, but I think most of the IDEs have real similar ones, if not the same. So you should be okay one way or the other. Yeah, I got this awesome swag from marathon last year. And of course, if I hold it this way, then everyone gets to see how many miles I ran, right? And run's the wrong word for it. How many the distance that I moved that day. I've yet to actually run the entire distance without taking a break to walk a little, but that's okay. My whole goal was to just finish and all that good enough. So same goal again for this year for the marathon. Just want to finish it. Maybe do a little better than last time, but we'll see. We'll see. I could do some beeping or weird beeping noise. Let's see. I gotta order a new laptop because this one I'm a little worried about. It might be on its last legs, but I think I reinstalled all the drivers, updated things. I upgraded to Windows 11 after all the issues I had on Tuesday, and it should be good. Oh yeah, no, one of my kids asked me one time, like, if I won the race, and I said no. I don't plan on ever winning a marathon. And they're like, no, why not? It's like, I don't want to put that amount of time, energy, and effort into doing that, and physically I don't think I can now that I'm 34. There's might be a chance. I mean, the free marathon, we don't get the most competitive people in the world, so it's not like an elite marathon. It's no Boston or anything, but I still don't think even if I tried real hard I could win it. So it's like, no, that's not gonna happen. Hopefully that was actually interesting for them to be like, oh, wait, you don't want to win? But we'll see. Hey, good morning, Rochelle. All right, so we start up a new project here, and I'm going to put my Java with Ant Java application, make sure I put it inside of the correct repository here so that it'll go out to our course repository. So I'll just hit browse here. So when you folks are working on your labs and your projects, you're going to clone the repository. So I'll walk you through the lab today. I'll essentially do it for you. Let me find winter 2022. There we go. Make sure it gets in the right location so that GitHub can get the files out to the github.com central repository in the cloud. If I can see it on github.com, or if you can see it on github.com, I'll be able to see it on github.com. You can use any email you want. Just anything other than a burner email address. Like you'll get emails when I do reviews of your code occasionally if I have comments about it. GitHub has a really nice workflow online for how I can leave comments right in the code, so I don't need to do any sort of annotations or like separate sort of files. The whole process happens there on the website, and I'll show you what that looks like when we talk about the lab today as well. Okay, so for now, this is again the public repository. All my code examples are going to go here. So here's our review. We'll just review from last semester. Why not? I like long names. Man, this is going a lot faster than I thought it would. We need another cup. Actually, see, I finished off that first pot, unfortunately, to see if my kids can make another pot. We've got the echo dots around the house because they're all sorts of fun. So I can like drop in on any room almost. Although I don't have one in my office. I've thought about that, but I don't know. Usually I'm at my laptop, so I can put music on right there, but the kids like it for music and things. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if someone wants to make me some coffee. Oh, it crashed. My phone is sad too. It's just a sad tech day. Really thought that was gonna work, and then I could just like get some coffee delivered. Or maybe it'll be done by the time we go on break. But I'm gonna try one last time, and then we'll get back to this. We can clean up all these comments too while I wait. I don't need any of those around. Hey, you guys there? All right, it worked that time. That was awesome. My daughter is down in the kitchen. So, depending on who you had 1500 with, you may or may not have been told different things about comments, and that's okay. Everyone has different opinions about code comments. So if you had me, you got one extreme where I pretty much say I will never use comments ever. And perhaps I take that to a fault. And there are good places for comments and good reasons for comments. But in general, one of the ideas that floats around in the industry is that we say code should be self-documenting. That the variables in my code, the names that I use, should all indicate to you what the code is doing, so that you don't need to read a comment to tell you what the code is going to do. So some people would say something like, string for name, and then they would say, hey, string n is Eric. This is really stupid, because this is a terrible variable name here. I have no idea what n is, and if I have to read my comment to know what it is, I've done something wrong. So the variable name should tell you what it's storing. So now here I have a string called name, it's going to store Eric. And really it's probably even better to call this first name. Right? You want your variable names to be descriptive, and if you've done things right in Netbeans, you go to Tools and Options here. It's weird that it's not a default, but that's okay. You go to Editor and Code Completion, pick the Java language in the dropdown. So Tools, Options, Editor, Code Completion, Language, Java. It's okay. And then boxes 2 and 3 should be checked for subword completion and auto pop-up on typing any Java identifier part. Excuse me. So that means as we start typing things, Netbeans is going to automatically suggest it here. So if I were to print out something here, and again, I'm always a fan of shortcuts, so don't type system.out.println or println, type SOUT and then hit tab and it auto-completes for you. Again, use the tool, be efficiently lazy like a good developer. Hector, thank you so much for donating those bits to the Student Scholarship Fund over at the University of Michigan Dearborn College of Engineering and Computer Science, where I'm both a student and a lecturer. It's kind of fun. One of these days I'll learn to say that even faster. But no, thank you so much for the support. And I think someone even subscribed earlier. That's so cool. You folks are amazing. Definitely don't have to do that at all. But all of that does go over right from Twitch's pocket to my pocket to the Student Scholarship Fund, because I think that's kind of fun. And college is crazy expensive. It is ridiculous how much this stuff costs. So the more we can do for that scholarship fund, the better. You might ask why I don't donate to the OCC one, but I actually have OCC scholarship fund stuff on payroll deduction. They make it really easy for staff at OCC to donate to OCC, of course. But anyways, we've got that fund. And hopefully in the works, I've been talking with our director of development, or whatever his official title is, trying to get a endowed scholarship set up just for my CIS students, because why not? You know, the more students we have in the CIS program, the more job security I have, right? But you know, I want to see students be successful and hopefully not have you know, finances be an obstacle to getting a good college education and getting you set up to be successful in the industry. You know, some organizations are moving away from requiring a college degree as this is the like minimum level of entry in tech, but most of them still look for sometimes it's an associate's. A lot of organizations are a bachelor's. I think we're getting better at it. I know Tesla and Apple, I think, are pushing hard for, hey, if you can do the job, we could care less if you have a college education or not. I like that, and I also don't like that in some ways. Because I do like to imagine that getting a college education is more than just job skills training. If that's all that was, you folks could just go to a coding boot camp, spend 12 weeks full-time doing one of these things, getting a bunch of practice, and be out the door. And while that teaches you skills for sure, I think there is more to it, and more to the college education experience, and especially around some of the general education classes and other things that you learn, not specific just to learning how to code, but you know, there's ups and downs to everything, and so we'll see. Anyway, so turn on all of that subword completion stuff so that when you want to go use your variable name, I type FI, and it says, oh, do you mean first name? And I hit tab, and it auto-completes it. So very rarely have I ever typing out an entire variable name. So by using a long variable name, it makes it very readable, and it doesn't make it any harder for me to type it, because honestly, I don't type them. I let the tool type it for me. I just have to give it a couple letters here. So we're going to use nice long variable names. That's the goal here, right? A self-descripting or self-describing code, self-documenting code. And the other reason that comments are often frowned upon, because I can go and change the code here and forget to change the comment because it's not linked intrinsically. But if I were to change first name here and say, hey, this is going to be my full name, and now I have Eric Janeski here, I'm going to use my tool. Don't rename things yourself. I'm going to right click and go refactor rename, and I'm going to call this full name here, and it's going to change it everywhere else in my code. So if I've used this 5 times in my code here, it's going to change it all the places for me with that refactor tool. So refactoring is phenomenal here. And again, now the variable name has changed, but if I had a comment here, it might have gotten missed. Now, sometimes refactoring will catch that sort of thing. Sometimes it won't. Just kind of depends. It's decently good at it, but if you have any typos or anything like that, you know, you might miss that sort of thing. I got a voicemail. That's weird. I'm always worried, like the first week of class, someone's gonna not know how to find us and call me in the middle of class and wonder where we are. But I think in general, you folks are pretty good at figuring this out. So I think we've got everybody that we need here. All right, so long variable names, right, that sort of thing. Same with methods, right? If you're going to write a method, we might as well have a nice long variable name for it here. So public static, let's do, how about an int? I want to, I don't know, ask user for 2 numbers and return the product. Right? That's a terribly long method name here, but if you read it and you say ask user for 2 numbers and return the product, you probably know what's going to happen just from the name of the method. That might be slightly excessively long here, but you get the idea. So generally in NetBeans, I use the Java with Ant application. That's the easiest. There's Maven and Gradle, both work, but I tend to have a little bit more issues with them here and there. They do more things than we really need. There's a lot of really cool things around package management if you're using other libraries that they're really good at, but we don't do any of that fancy stuff. So Java with Ant is generally the most basic one for us that just works out of the box. So new project, Java with Ant, Java application. That ought to get you up and running. Okay, so if I need to ask users for 2 numbers, let's do that. So we've been using scanner, the scanner class to get keyboard input from people. So we'll say scanner. I'm fond of calling it keyboard. Depending on which book you read, they might have called it different things. I like keyboard here because we're getting some keyboard input here. And we'll say equals a new scanner, given system.in, right, the standard input here. And then it doesn't know what a scanner is. It lights it up red, and it says, oh, can't find symbol. Now here's where NetBeans shines again, because it has these helpful hints. Sometimes these little light bulbs are good. Sometimes they're awful. So really, you just got to, I don't know, look at the suggestion and see if it's actually what you really want. We don't want to create a class, right? Because we don't want to write our own scanner. So we know these ones are bad suggestions, or at least not helpful for us. What we do want is to add an import for java.util.scanner. I know that's going to be a little small on the screen, sorry, but that first option, I click that, and it goes and adds the import line for me. So anytime we use something on one of the Java libraries, it can generally suggest, hey, do you want this out of one of these libraries? Generally. That way you don't have to type your own imports. Again, I'm not a fan of typing things if I don't have to. So I'm going to use all of those. All right, so we got the scanner for keyboard, calling it keyboard. Now we need to go ask the user for 2 numbers. So we'll say enter the first number. And then when we're dealing with input here, I know the scanner class can get integers out of the box, right? You can say keyboard next, and you get all sorts of nexts here. Next ints, double, whatever. Most of the time, I'm going to recommend we always use next line for a couple reasons. So we will say, hey, my int for first number is keyboard.nextLine. And you remember, this isn't going to work because next line is going to give us strings, right? A string cannot be converted to an int. Well, turns out we know how to convert these, right? We have integer.parseInt. And we can give integer.parseInt whatever string we get from keyboard next line here, right? So we'll get our first number. So parsing using our parse functions here is almost always going to be better for us than letting scanner do it. And again, mostly because the scanner here, when you use next int, is not going to recognize the enter key that was typed in, and it's going to leave that what we call on the buffer. So on the input, it'll read the number out, but it's going to leave that enter key. And the next time you try and go and get a line, it's going to say, oh, there's an enter key here, and it'll give you an empty line. Versus every time we use next line, it'll read everything up to and including that new line, that enter key that you typed in, and then the next time you read, you're ready to go. So generally this is easier, and then we also have a chance here to handle these exceptions here. So we can put this in a try block, and we can say, hey, I want to try to do this thing, and I'm going to catch I think it's a number format exception. And if an exception happens, that wasn't right. If an exception happens, then we can say, please enter a number, right? Keep our program from crashing here, tell them to enter a number, and really we can put all of this in some sort of while loop. So it keeps on going here over and over and over and over. So two options. We can say while true, which it feels a little bit bad here. This is just an infinite loop, and eventually we'll break our loop. Right? This will stop the while true loop. Or we can have some sort of sentinel value for number that we don't expect them to enter, and as long as that number equals that, we can go that route. Either way is going to be okay. Not too big of a deal, but second number equals integer.parseInt of keyboard.next line. Now we need to ask them, right? So please enter the second number. Yeah, we get our first number, we get our second number, and then we can have our, we don't even really need to break in here, right? We can just return first number times second number, because we're returning the product here. And I'm auto format, I'm sorry, I do that out of habit here. So Shift Alt F, I want to say. So under source and format, Alt Shift F will automatically line things up for you. So if you screwed things up or have weird tabs and stuff is all over the place and whatever you wanted to do here, you can give it a quick auto format and it fixes most of that for you. It's really nice and handy and lines up all the code inside of your blocks here. So that's it. So this is our function here then. And NetBeans at this point in Java is smart enough to know, hey, we have an infinite loop until we hit this return. And maybe let's say a valid number here. So, I'll put all that inside the block too. Why not? I'll just throw all that in here. Give it a little format. So we've got enter the first number, enter the second number, right? So this is basic exception handling here from chapter 5, I want to say. I think that's chapter 5. Is it 5 or 4? This is the kind of thing I don't have on the top of my head. That's why we get a book here, right? Yeah, chapter 5. That's what I thought. So from chapter 5, it's not doing our own custom exceptions, and we'll get into that later when we get to that exceptions chapter. But this is, hey, if I get this exception, do this message, and then we caught, so wherever it stopped working, we just go on back here, and we'll go back to the while true. Do it again, do it again. And once we return, we're done here. So then I can do this sort of thing here. So we'll have an int for the product is equal to whatever we get back from this function here, this method here. And then we can print out the product of your numbers is, and again, you can do the string concatenation stuff. It's a little bit ugly here, so I prefer string formatting. It takes up a little bit more space, but it's okay. So string.format, right? We're going to say, hey, this is what I want to format. So I'm going to bump that down one line here, and then I put in my little substitutions. So I want to substitute in a digit, right? %d here, and I'll substitute in product. Is that missing another parenthesis? There we go. Right, doing our string substitution with format. I think that's the syntax, right? It's the kind of thing I gotta always look up again as well. Hard to keep that all on the top of my head. Let's see if that works for us. Okay. My plugins are messed up here. I hate this thing. I don't know why. Come on, plugins. Java plugins. I think that's just this one, right? Okay. Deactivate and reactivate, maybe? I forget. No, that's not the one I want. This and the project properties, if your code's not doing what you'd expect it to do, in this compiling tab, this NB Java C plugin is funky sometimes. So this compile and save option doesn't work half the time for me. It was working great like all of last semester, and then I went and I've updated NetBeans and it's not again. So if you just turn that off, it will actually compile when you hit run every time instead of save. I don't know. That one confuses me. I'll spend some more time Googling it. All right, here we go. So the first number, we'll do 10 and 20, and the product is 200. Awesome. Yes, we substitute in with our %d here. We get 200. Life is pretty good. So string formatting is generally the nicer way of outputting strings and dealing with strings. So instead of doing all the concatenation, this way your spaces don't have to, I don't know, it's always kind of annoying to get spaces in your outputs if you're concatenating a lot of things. So string formatting generally just a little bit more friendly here. Okay, how are you folks doing so far? Nothing earth-shattering and new, I hope. Okay, that's good. Good. Now let's look at debugging. So if this is not doing what we'd expect, I'm going to come in here and, I don't know, let's say line 26 or so. I'm going to click on the line number, put a breakpoint in, the big fat red dot, or square. I guess it's not a dot. Big red square here. So what that means when I run my program in debug mode, so not the regular run, but in debug mode, that's this one here, the play with the line numbers on it. When it gets to this point, it's going to stop for me. And then I can actually see the value of all of the variables in my code. So the debugger is your best friend. So we'll learn to see what's happening and what our variables are doing in our code. It's awesome. All right, here we go. So we can see over at the top left, this is our call stack. So we were at main line 13. This is the first place we were. So main line 13 right here said, okay, call this method. So now we've jumped to the method, ask user for two numbers and return product, and we're at line 26 currently. And we've paused. So we've got the variables tab here, and we've got our output tab here. So you got to flip between the two. It's a little bit annoying here, but we can see in variables, we'll see all the values of anything we've declared. And right now there's nothing in here except for keyboard. The only thing we have is the keyboard here that we set up as a new scanner. So once I type in a number here, like how about let's do 42 and hit enter, then it's ready to be read here by keyboard next line. So it doesn't show up right away because I hit enter. Now what I want to do is step. So in our debugging tool up here, or our menu, we've got 4 different steps. So there's the step over. This is the most common one we're going to use. We have a step over expression. Sure, don't use that one as often. We have a step into. So if we want to go into a method or some sort of function call, we're going to use into, or we can use out of to step out of a method or function call back up a level, essentially. So I just want to step over. I just wanted it to run that line of code. So do that line of code and step. So step means just go to the next line. And now we'll see, okay, first number is an integer, its value is 42. The other fun thing you can do is you can come in here and you can change these. So I can say, hey, really, go make that 10. And it changes the value while your program's running, which is kind of interesting. So we'll step, and now our output now has the enter the second number. If I try and step here, it just sits and waits. Because now my output, but the program is waiting for this keyboard next line to run. It doesn't look like anything's happening here, because it's waiting for that other number to be read. So now I have to enter another number. We'll try 42 again. Now it can come back here and keep on working, right? So like technically at keyboard next line, the program's essentially paused almost. It's waiting for input to be read here. So that keyboard next line just kind of sits. Now I've got first number is 10, second number is 42, and I can change it again if I want. Let's make it, I don't know, 2. Sure, why not? You just got to click out to make sure it saves it here. And then it's going to return that value here. Now my step took me back to where I was. I was at line 13. The step again. Now product has a value. Product is 20, 10 times 2, and we can change this one again if we want. Make that 42 for fun. Right? And then when I step, when it prints out that line, one more step, my output, almost there. There we go. Product of your number is 42. Step, and the program's over. We're done. So we can use the debugger as our code is running to see the values of anything that's happening here. So if you're not getting results that we expect, or it's not going into an if block when we expect it to, or a while loop is ending too soon, right? We can see the values and see what's happening. It's pretty cool. So the debugger is super helpful here to kind of diagnose or find out what's happening and remove the bugs or debug your program. Ha 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 ha. That's what we call the debugger. Right? It helps you with debugging or removing bugs from your program. Okay, that makes sense so far? We doing all right? Maybe we need some more coffee. If I switch to water, I'll go get more coffee in a minute. Hopefully it's done downstairs. I took over back in the pandemic. This is I'm actually upstairs, which is nice because it's a little nicer than my basement when I was going to do lots of things for my home office. So shuffled the kids around a little bit. I took this one. Posture check. Thank you so much. I slouch a lot. I have this really handy like back stretching board you can like lean back on, but if I put it behind me too, it kind of helps ensure I'm going to sit nicely instead of like hunching over the keys like that. So the only thing I have to do is not hit my head on this little loft desk. All right, so again, hopefully nothing new. This try catch may or may not be new, depending on what you did in 1500. Hopefully you saw it. If not, the try is anytime an exception might happen, we can use a try block, and then we catch that exception instead of crashing. All right, so if I were to do that same sort of thing up in here, well, we'll just do one right here, I guess, right? We'll just out. Enter not a number to break me. And then we'll have an int number is integer.parseInt of the keyboard.nextLine. And we'll see if it's outside of the try block here, it will break nice and easy. Once it compiles. Yep, enter not a number, so if I enter like ASDF, we get an exception and program crashes. We should feel bad about ourselves. Right? Exception in thread main, number format exception is the issue here. And input string here. So I am a much bigger fan of parsing than using the scanner functions, right? The scanner functions work, but they can cause all sorts of issues later on if you're mixing and matching. Like this keyboard, like next int. So if you are getting string input and numerical input and then string input again, what happens is, let me actually, I think I can do this. I'll open up Word for fun. So if I were to say like, hey, enter your name, enter your age, and then enter something else here. Let's see. So if it was, name, and then it was age, and then it was, I don't know, like your major or something, right? If I were to enter those three different values. So the first time when I entered name, I put in Eric, and I would hit the enter key, right? The enter key is that essentially a \n, that new line character. This would all get read as a string. Great. When I enter age, I'm going to put in 34 and enter here. If you use keyboard or the scanner next int, all it reads here is the 34. It leaves the new line there. So then when I go ask for your major, it's going to say, oh, there's a new line right here. Your major is empty. So I'm not fond of that. It's easy enough to work around. You just have to call next line again to essentially throw away this, right? You just skip it with another next line. But I'm just in the habit of always using next line and then doing the parsing after the fact, rather than using scanner, because this trips up people all the time. Right, and you can actually see, we can see that sort of thing. So if we want to, we'll do that. We'll say enter your name. We'll say string name is keyboard.nextLine. And then instead of doing integer parseInt, we can do keyboard.nextInt here. And here I'm going to leave a comment. Don't when using nextInt. See below. I don't know. Sure. And then an int for, or a string for major, keyboard.nextLine. And we'll ask them enter your major. So if we were to put this in debug mode and actually watch it here, we can see all that happen. All right, so we'll step and we'll get the output of enter your name. We'll say Eric. Great. Now, why? Okay, the window got funny, but that's fine. So name is Eric, right? That's good. And then we'll step, and step is going to wait for me to enter my age. I'll go back to my output, enter. Now that we don't actually want to break it, we want a real number, so I'll put in 34. Now I can see number is 34. Life is good so far. And we're going to say, okay, enter your major, step, and I'll step. And it never asked me. It never paused and waited for any output here, because that enter key was available to be read on the buffer, so major becomes blank. So in debug mode, I can see, well, it skipped right past it and it set major to blank. And that's no good here. I mean, that's not what we want to have happen for sure. Okay? So much more of a fan of just always using next line, because I will always read those enter keys. Yep. It's if you want to, you could just say keyboard.nextLine. Line. The enter key after numbers are entered. I don't know, something like that. Sure. And that would work okay, but I feel like this is more work than integer.parseInt. But maybe not. I don't know. I type this one often enough. It's easy enough to type. No, so I'm just doing some examples right now. Duon again. So we'll talk about what the lab exercise is after we get back from break. And I'll walk you through the lab to make sure Git is working for you folks. It'll be a pretty basic one, actually. Nothing too interesting there. So all of these examples that I'm going to do here, or that I am doing, are going to go out to that course GitHub repository. So you can always go see it after the fact. So don't feel like you need to be typing along either, because all of this code will be available to you. If you want to type it and follow along, go for it. I won't stop you here, but generally I find I type faster than most people. And I don't know, sure. So I can see all those Netbeans projects files, just leave them alone. They're perfectly fine. All this other junk, just let it get committed. We want all that. Hydration, thank you so much for the reminder, DL Day. Hydrate. What did someone tell me last time? It's hydrate or dihydrate. I thought that was funny. So I can see my review from last semester.java has all the stuff in it so far. Good so far. So this is my review so far. You have to give it a commit summary, and then I'm going to commit. It'll make that snapshot. It'll take essentially save everything that's in that folder at that point in time and snapshot it. Then it's telling me, hey, my local repository has this, but the cloud, the GitHub repository origin, central repository does not. I need to take my changes and push them out to the cloud. Git gives you a push and pull process. So you pull changes from the cloud down, you push changes up to the cloud. Since we're the only ones working on it, there's almost never going to be any pulling happening, and that's okay. When we get into more team stuff near the end, I'll show you that workflow. It's not too bad. And then we can do our quick sanity check, the repository view on GitHub, and make sure I can see my code out on the GitHub website. Right? If you can see the code here, I'll be able to see your code online, and life will be good. Again, this is my public repository. All my examples will go out here. It just makes life easy. Your repositories that'll get created, and I'll show you how all that works with the GitHub Classroom workflow, are going to be private. So you'll have access and I'll have access and no one else will have access. So it'll make it easy for us to just keep all of our work private. Now, if you'd like to put your stuff out in public repositories to start like, hey, here's a portfolio of interesting stuff I've done, you're welcome to do that after due dates. And again, maybe some of the projects might be interesting enough to put out there, but you know, probably our capstone or our final project might be that sort of thing. But wait until after the due date, please. All right, so you can see my review from last semester folder. I can just click that link. It'll show me the files inside of it and other folders. I can get to a .java file. It's just a text file. I can browse and see it online here. And then if I have any questions, thoughts, you know, whatever, I can click on an individual line number and say, hey, here's a link to line 37. And you can send this as a message to me over Discord, over email, however you want to do that. I don't recommend you text message me links. That doesn't work very well. And, you know, you'd have to type it all in anyway, I guess, unless you're browsing it on the phone. But reading code on a phone is no fun. No fun at all. Just the screen is not large enough at all. But you can say, hey, you know, tell me more about line 37, or I'm having a problem here, or whatever happens. But you can link me right to it because it's all out online. So 404, we're going to do new repositories for every lab and every project. They're going to get created for you as part of the GitHub Classroom workflow. It's pretty cool. And I'll show you all that after we get back from break. And we'll go through the Lab 0 lab. And I'll talk everyone through it in case you hadn't had me before or done anything with Git before. That one will essentially be a freebie. And then from there on out, you're on your own for your labs. I mean, not on your own, but like I'm not going to do them for you and ask you to just type the exact same things I typed in. It'll be just a basic assignment to practice the things we've talked about that week, that sort of thing. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. I never asked it. E404UNNF. Does that stand for anything, or am I not pronouncing something right? UNF? E404 UNF? I don't know. I just call you 404. I hope that's okay. That's easy. Happy to pronounce your handles any better if you prefer. I think that is kind of fun too. I get to learn everyone's handles, but it gets me really confused when I see real names pop up, like, because Desire to Learn, where you turn things in, has your real names. Everything else has your handles. Error 404, yeah. 404 not found. Well, that's the other thing. When you go, and if you're trying to view your code on GitHub, and you get this little 404 page not found, make sure you're logged in. Username not found. Oh, nice. Okay. I get it there. Yeah, username not found. So just make sure you're logged in because that link should always work for you because the repository should exist. The workflows create them for you. Just if you see those 404 errors. I'm hoping by this point, right, we've made it to the second semester of Java. You won't be confused about weird sorts of red errors that you get all sorts of places here. Like all these common, hey, we're missing a semicolon, we're missing a parenthesis, missing a quote. Those ones are the easy ones. Other times, some of the errors are a little bit funky. Takes a little bit more tracking down, but we should be used to, if it doesn't like the syntax somewhere, figuring that out. Definitely we got to spend, and that was one of the takeaways I got from 1500, is I need to spend more time showing people how to resolve those red lines than assuming you can figure it out yourself. So syntax can get a little funky, but given you've already had a semester of Java, I'm going to assume all of you are pros at that by now. And can figure out what's going wrong with that particular line. But our earlier class, our intro to coding class, we're going to spend a little bit more time practicing some of those things. Okay? All right. Are we okay so far? So I've been talking for a while. I'm out of coffee. I think, why don't we take a break now? I'm going to go get some coffee. We'll come back and we'll look at our first lab exercise here that we're going to do. And I'll walk you all through it in case you haven't done any of this Git stuff before. Again, that'll be the only time you can like essentially do exactly the things I do. Future labs are going to be, hey, we did this thing in class. Let's do something very similar. Not all that difficult, but just a quick little practice, making sure we can kind of follow along with that concept. The projects are the big ones where you're going to take the tools and techniques that we learned and then apply them to solve bigger problems. It's not just like, hey, follow along and write this code that does this. A little bit trickier there. So again, the labs are ideally participation points. Everyone should get 100% on all of them. I'm happy to help you with anything that comes up in the lab. So generally we'll spend, I don't know, the first half a class or so talking about new stuff, and then the second half getting a chance to work hands-on, doing some of those lab exercises, that sort of thing. I don't ever plan on talking for the full 2 hours, all the way till 11:50. That would be terribly dull, and you guys would be bored. And honestly, I get bored of hearing myself talk if I keep talking for too long. So why do we plan to do that? We put some music on, we get our next track here. We'll come back in about 10 minutes or so, and we'll pick it up from there. So I think that puts us out to right at 11, right? So 11 a.m. Yep, 10 minutes, and we'll be back in a little bit. Thanks, folks. Alrighty, folks, welcome on back. When I snuck out to get coffee, my little kitty here got in, so he wanted to come say hi, I guess. So this is Merlin. Merlin, say hi to everybody. Say hi. Wave your paw. Say hi. So he will be a year in a month and a day. So we got them over the pandemic. I had an older cat pass over the pandemic, and my kids were really sad, and I was sad about it. And so we looked for kittens, and we found him and his sister. So I have 3 cats at home now. The oldest is about 15. He's getting a little slow now, and a little bit of arthritis, which is a bummer. But these 2 little kittens keep him busy. So they used to hang out a lot more often in my office when I taught, but I don't know. So he's feeling really affectionate right now. But it makes it really hard to type when you're on my lap. Yes, it does. Yeah, cool cat for sure. Definitely. So he's a lot of fun. He's a good boy. All right, but you're going to have to get down so I can type. So he used to like hang up on my shoulders and stuff, but his claws are a little sharp for that. Yeah, hi. All right, so we're going to talk about the lab assignment here, which is essentially just going to be practice for you using Git and this Git workflow. So nothing like actually tricky assignment-wise, code-wise, nothing major coming in there. So we'll do more labs and practice next week, and we'll get into our first project. So again, this is just focused on, can you get the tools up and running, get the GitHub workflow working for you, and we can go from there. All right, baby, I really need my hands. All right, so I have a GitHub Classroom link. So this is going to be the starting point. So in D2L, I'm going to make an assignment here, and that'll be the start of your assignment. So I'll walk you through the first one, and we can go from there. Hi. He also likes to eat my beard. It's the weirdest thing. Like if it gets too close to him, he'll just like nibble on it. It's really funny. So this is lab 0. So labs are generally going to be due before the next week of class. So we've got some time to do it. So I'll put it 11:20 before class starts at 10 a.m. Generally, I'll be going over solutions to labs in class after they're due. So again, I can't take them late because I've gone over answers to them. They're made to be participation points. We're going to have time set aside, so I'm not going to lecture the whole time. You can finish out the hour, and you should be able to get all these labs done, is the goal. If it takes a little bit of extra time, not too bad. We've got to get them in before the next week, so I can just real quick go over the answers to them if there's anything interesting there. And remember, the points only matter within the category. So just because it's 10 points and a project is 10 points, again, the labs are weighted at 10% of the overall score. Projects are 30% of your overall score. So the points are a little bit funny there. Don't worry too much about it here. So I'll put labs in the labs category. All right, so the first thing is our GitHub Classroom link. I'll save it in a second, and then you can get to it here. So we're going to, let me just do copy paste here because that's a little easier for me. Give me just a second. Not desktop GitHub. That's the wrong page. Desire to learn. This is just a quick little introduce yourself to me project, so I can get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to copy it out of the 1500 course as well, because I like everyone to just introduce themselves, so I get a chance to know you a little bit here. So give me 1 second. This way I don't have to type it all. I'm not a fan of typing things that I don't have to, in case you haven't noticed. All right, let's see. There we go. Boom. Perfect. Okay, so I can close that back down. So you're going to click the link above to create the repository. Then you're going to clone the repository using the GitHub desktop tool. And again, I'll show you how to do all that. We're going to make a new Netbeans project inside that repository folder. We're going to write a Java program that introduces ourselves. So just a bunch of systemout.print lines. Your name, pronouns, major, previous programming experience, reason for taking the class, any fun facts or things that you want me to know about you. Then we're going to use the GitHub desktop client to commit our program, push the changes to the GitHub cloud, and we're going to submit the URL to the feedback pull request. Sounds like gibberish right now. Don't worry about it. I'll show you all that in a second. So we save and close, and we'll go through and we'll do this exercise here. So in lab 0, I'm going to go back to edit. That way it's saved so you can go see it. So the first thing, you click this link, and it's going to ask you, do you want to accept the assignment? So yes, we want to accept the assignment. So control click, right, will open in a new tab for you. If you hold control while you click. Yes, so this is our course. So all the assignments will be in this course. All the assignments will have the course dash the assignment name in them. And then the repository will get created, will have your username at the end. So we'll have a bunch of repositories named CIS 2151 Winter 2022 dash assignment name dash username. That's just the naming convention, right? We like it, and we're going to say accept. And it tells you, okay, great, we've accepted it. We're configuring it now. It might take a few minutes. This, we don't do anything super interesting or complex here. It takes like 5 seconds or less. So by the time I finish saying that, I just refresh the page, and it says, great, your assignment repository has been created. Okay, so everyone will get a private repository that I have access to and you have access to. Life is good. You don't need to go through any steps to make your own. I don't have to write any scripts to make any own repositories here. And so each assignment is going to get a new one here. Right, so we just click on the link here now. It'll take us to the page for it. Ooh, a glitch cat. There we go. So it's empty right now. There's a couple things. There's a .github folder. Just leave that alone. That's part of the GitHub classroom workflow. There's the git ignore that came out of the template. So all of our build artifacts, all the .class files, those sorts of things won't show up here. And then there's a README that just says, hey, this is the Java template. I am too lazy to change the README for every project, so they all just say template. So I could build templates for each project and they'd be named right, but I don't really care to. That seems like a lot more work than what you get out of it. So now we have the repository, right? The next step is to clone it to get our copy of the repository on our local computer. And again, this will work on your machine or on the college virtual machines, no problem, right? All the other tools are installed. The only thing that's not there is the GitHub desktop client. So if you click on code and you say open with GitHub desktop, it will either launch the GitHub desktop or tell you need to go download it. Okay, so it's pretty good at that. This step says, okay, we're going to make a copy of this repository. Here's the website, github.com/yada, yada, yada. Here's where we want to put it on your computer. This is the default location, your users, documents, GitHub folder, and then name of the repository. I'm fond of defaults. You're welcome to put it anywhere you want. It really doesn't matter where you put it. Just you'll be able to go find it later. That's the only thing. So I leave everything in the default location because it makes my life easier. Then otherwise I have to change it every single time, and that would be no fun. My daughter did make coffee. She's awesome. Although she didn't put anything away, but that's okay. The filters were out. We have beans that we grind fresh because I'm a coffee snob, which I'm really not. Like hot and black is good enough for coffee, but I think the fresh ground beans are fun, so we usually do that. And that was all out on the counter, but I can't complain too much because I have hot coffee now. Right, so great. That location, I'm going to say clone. This will make that folder on my computer, and it will put everything that was inside of the repository online in my local folder. So I'll get that GitHub folder, I'll get the git ignore file, and I'll get the README file. Okay, and it goes and checks, make sure we're all in sync. So 2 handy shortcuts, right? The repository menu, view on GitHub, will launch out the website again, or show in Explorer will show you the folder itself, the repository folder, on your computer. And I'm really sad, Windows 11, the File Explorer is weirdly slow. No, so I drink my coffee almost exclusively black. A fun story a long time ago, my first full-time job was actually at OCC. I did desktop support at the Auburn Hills campus. So actually deploying all the computers, any help with installing software, computer stuff that went wrong, that sort of thing. And the office there at the time, and I think it's still there, I'd have to double check, it's been a while since I went and visited, was inside like a little library room. So there was no kitchen, there was no water in the room because it was just like meant to be like a little side office or storage or something, but they put an office there. So there was no water there. So the only thing to drink was coffee from the coffee pot, or I could go out the door, out through the library, down the hall to the drinking fountain over in whatever building that was. Is it EFD? I forget the building number now. Oh, that's sad. It's been a while. So I started drinking the coffee, and everyone else in the office except the boss drank their coffee black. So there were 4 of us and the boss in the office. Actually, there was 5, but he was an afternoon guy, so he showed up later. I don't remember if he drank the coffee or not. So the 3 of them would all drink black coffee, and then the boss would put cream in his coffee. Those little like cream packets or whatever, like tear open the little foil seal on it, and they always make fun of him for it. So I'm like, oh, okay, I should drink the coffee black or they're going to make fun of me. Turns out it was a good way to learn because I am a type 1 diabetic now, and if I were to always be drinking stuff with sugar in it, it would be a little bit bad for my blood sugar. Not the worst thing in the world. I mean, you can deal with it, but it was a good habit to learn to drink my coffee black. And that was a long story about coffee. Sorry. And speaking of my blood sugar, I've got a continuous glucose meter and an insulin pump now, so I'm like officially part cyborg. So I do need to take a little bit of insulin here because my sugar's too high. It slowly autocorrects. It tries not to like correct too fast and send you into these ups and downs and mountains and valleys sort of thing, which is good. But sometimes I wish it corrected a little bit faster for me automatically. But it's not too bad. I just have to punch in and it shoots me up with some insulin. It's pretty cool. Better than it used to be. I have to take shots like 7 times a day. All right, so I've got my folder here. So this is where I'm going to put my Netbeans project. Okay, so when I go to Netbeans and I want to go File, New Project, I'm going to pick Java with Ant, Java Application. We'll go Next. So I don't want the previous location. You don't want, it likes to default to either the last place you put something or to a folder called Netbeans Projects, which is not going to get it into the GitHub repository. So browse, and we're going to go find that location. So go find your GitHub folder. It's in your C drive, users, your username, documents, and then a folder called GitHub here. So I'm going to go find CIS 2151 Winter 2022 Lab 0 - your username here. I can change the code. So there is a really cool group of people who've worked on hacking insulin pumps. And hacking is, I guess, really the wrong term for it, but taking an insulin pump and doing custom stuff on it. And a hero of mine, Scott Hanselman, who works over at Microsoft, has been big into that and a big advocate for it. And his diabetes is well under control thanks to his insulin pump and the work that they've done on that sort of thing. I just have the stock code because I'm scared to break it and do the wrong thing on it because these things are expensive. You get a new one like every 5 years from insurance. And I haven't had this one for 5 years. So maybe when I get my new one, I'll feel a little bit safer in trying to play around with the existing one. But if I break this one, I'm in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to wait a little bit. So Lab 0, I'm in the correct folder here. This is the repository folder. I'm going to give it a name. So we'll call this project Lab 0. So the project name, the project location is that GitHub repository folder. And we want to create the class. Great. We're up and running. So I should see in the folder now there's a bunch of stuff, right? Life is good. I see stuff showing up in the folder. If I check my GitHub client, I'm going to see, hey, there's a bunch of new stuff here. Commits are free, right? I always encourage you to commit early and often. So make that snapshot here. So this is Lab 0 started. I'm going to say commit and push. Again, at this point, really, there's no work to be saved, but I just want to get into the habit of committing and pushing often. Commit and push, commit and push. Just to get those snapshots, because once the github.com cloud has it, it's really, really, really hard to lose it. And especially on large projects. I feel super bad when people are like, oh, my computer had issues or something died or whatever it was and I lost all my work. And I say, well, that sucks. Did you commit it to GitHub? And, I still feel bad that your computer's out of commission, but hopefully you didn't lose much work due to that. Okay, and then we can go in and actually do the lab. So I'm going to, again, take out these comments. One of these days I'll fix that template, but that's okay. I'll take all these out, and we had to do a couple print lines, right? We had to do our name, our pronouns, our major, oops, S out, and tab. So, tab, oh my goodness, I'm typing too fast, friends. Too fast. Okay, S out, tab. I guess maybe I do have the jitters after so much coffee now. I think it was 4 or 5 lines, maybe. Let's see. Let's go back and look. So it was name and pronouns, major, previous programming experience, reason for taking the class, and fun facts. Okay, good, we got that. So Eric Chernesky, he, him. And obviously this part when you copy, please do your own information here. Don't turn in my information back to me, please. My major is a Doctor of Engineering in Automotive Systems and Mobility. It's a funny sounding program over at U of M Dearborn, but their Doctor of Engineering program is designed for working professionals who want to go part-time. Their PhD programs, or Doctor of Philosophy, program is administered through the Rackham School of Graduate Studies based in Ann Arbor, and they have a policy that you may not be a part-time student because generally they find you're less likely to complete your program if you're going part-time. So if less people complete it, it looks bad on their numbers. One of the ways that schools get ranked is, completion rate of students accepted to actually finishing. So they want to keep that number as high as possible. So it's a good and a bad thing. It's good in that the department will actually sponsor you. So you essentially get paid to get your PhD. You don't get paid a lot, but you get paid a little bit, but it's not paid enough for me to raise my family of 6 on. But they'll give you a stipend, monthly stipend to pay for a couple things, and then you essentially will teach for them or help do research in one of the labs, which is not a bad gig if that's the sort of thing you're into and you have the time to dedicate to it. But the Doctor of Engineering is not run through Rackham, so they don't have to have those same Rackham requirements, which is nice. Anyway, so your major, previous programming experience. So I have about 15 plus years experience. I know C#, I know Python, I know Java, I know C++, I know Visual Basic is old, and it's still used places here. I can do PHP, I can do JavaScript. I'm sure I'm missing some here, but that's fine. And PowerShell. I love PowerShell. It's a great scripting language as well. So sure, previous programming experience, great. Reason for taking the class. I am taking the class because I'm the instructor. I kind of have to be here. And then fun facts. I play D&D with my friends and kids. I have 6 kids. That sort of thing. So big fan of D&D. We got into it in the pandemic as a fun little remote activity. That campaign that I had a buddy running has kind of petered off as he got a job and got busy with my kids. But now I was like, hey, I can probably do this. So I run 2 campaigns, one for one of my kids and some friends, and one for 3 of the kids and just one of our other adult friends. And it's going on pretty well. It's a lot of fun. I actually went and got my D&D tattoo because I'm that nerdy. That's kind of a bad angle here, but sure. I don't know how you can see. Sure, you can sort of see it. Oh, that's fine. I got a picture in Discord. So I got that during the pandemic too. I was really excited. And it also has the Keyblade hilt because I'm a big fan of Kingdom Hearts as well. So it's like a dice kind of lined up like a sword with the Keyblade hilt. So always happy to show that off because it's pretty cool. Yeah, that's fun facts about me. That's it there. When we're done, we're going to use the GitHub desktop client to commit and push the changes. So go back to GitHub. We'll say, hey, just one file's changed now. Yeah, D&D. There we go. So I actually had someone, I think was it Wednesday? I said, hey, I play D&D, and someone in chat was like, what's D&D? And I was a little bit sad, but that's okay. It's Dungeons & Dragons. It's a tabletop role-playing game. It's a lot of fun. So sure, all these things in red were removed, all the things in green were added. So on the left you get old line numbers, on the right you get new line numbers. So we used to have 20 lines, we're down to 14. These ones were added and these ones were removed. So Git will track things at the line level inside your files. It's lots of fun. Yeah, it is really hard to get the group of people who can meet. So we've had good luck so far meeting monthly or so. The weekly is just too crazy for me, too much of a time sink. That's what we tried to do with the kids early in the pandemic, and it worked out relatively well because we literally had nothing to do. So that was pretty well, and then we were about like every other week, and then stuff kept coming up, and then we met and it kind of fell off, which is a bummer. The kids still want to keep that campaign going, so hopefully when my buddy things settle down at his job, he can keep running it for us, or I don't know, we'll see. I don't really want to jump in and try and take that one over. But maybe I will. We'll see. We're ready to commit. So here's lab 0. So you have to give it the commit summary here. That small box is required. So it'll say lab 0 done. I'm going to commit and push. And for commit summaries, you can really put anything you want there. Different organizations will have different conventions around what you should put in there or should not put in there. The description box is like a long form. Put really anything you want in there. You can get crazy. I almost never use it. It's not anything we have to do. Great, so I've committed. Now I'm going to go to repository view on GitHub, pull the website back up here, and here's where we're going to find that feedback pull request. So we can do a quick sanity check. Again, I want to go into Lab 0 and make sure all the code's there. So find that source folder where all of our source code goes. Find Lab 0. Looks like it's all here. I'm in a good shape. So I did my sanity check. I'm here. We should be good to go. So I'm going to go over to pull requests. So inside of the page, there's like a set of tabs. And then inside of that, there's a bunch of other things as well. So under pull requests, there's one called feedback. This automatically gets created based on the GitHub Classroom workflow. It's fantastic. So one last check if you want, or if you just want to skip the first time of looking in your code and browsing around, you can see there's additional tabs here. So in commits, you can see every commit you've made, that sort of thing. In files changed, you can see every file in this pull request, everything that changed. Generally, your Java file will be at the very bottom. Right? So I can see, hey, here's lab0.java. Here it all is. The reason why I love this workflow and why this is so cool is inside of the website here, there's this little option at any given line number. I can click this little plus button here, and you can too, actually, but generally it's me doing it, and I can leave a comment at this particular line of code, and this will generally send you an email. So whatever email you use to sign up for github.com, it will send you an email when I leave comments. Or you could just go back and check the website. But you know, I don't leave comments every time, but if there's something I want to note or say, usually I put it here and not in D2L, because in D2L, it's not attached to the code and the line numbers or anything. Right in here, I can say, hey, this was, you know, you could have done this differently, or this wasn't working for you, or this was really nice, I liked this, that sort of thing. Right, so I'll say, that sounds interesting. I don't know. And I'll leave a comment, and then it shows up inside of this pull request workflow. So this is used in the industry as, generally, this is the step where code is reviewed or peer reviewed, have some sort of, before we make the change officially to our actual running live code, production code, it gets reviewed. This pull request workflow is really cool, and you can do it all right here on the website. And it's awesome. So the link or the URL you're going to give me, you're just going to come up to the top here and copy paste this. So it'll be github.com/occ/class/semester-assignment name-your username/poll/1/files. Just copy paste that right into D2L and you're good to go. So when you go to submit something in D2L, there's just a text box. If you give me half a second here, I'll just pull it up. I go impersonate my fake student here, and I'll show you 1 second what that looks like. I wish there was an easier way to get to it, and maybe there is, but I have to go to the class list, which pulls up everyone's names, which is bad to be putting online. So give me a second. Impersonate, yes. Excuse me. All right, there we go. So now this is me as student Eric Chinesky. I'm going to go to assignments. I'm going to go to Lab 0. And when I'm ready to submit, down below the text submission box, you just paste it right in. I don't know. Sometimes I copy paste gets super weird. I don't know what I did here, but there we go. So if I paste it into the run box here, like Notepad, sometimes it works a little bit better. But just give me the URL, and you're good to submit. Yeah, DL Day. So there is a gaming group over at U of M Dearborn, which I'm vaguely associated with because I'm still a student technically there. And they've got a couple campaigns that run weekly, which is nice because generally they're all around near campus, that sort of thing. But it is hard to find a group of people who are going to play all the time and have things not kind of fall off. But that's the goal. All right, so I got it submitted. Life is good. You can see we'll submit it here. If I have any issues with it, I'll let you know. But I can go click the link. I can see your code. If you can see the code online, I'll be able to see it online, and life is good. So stop impersonating. I can drop this back in. There we go. Okay. And that's it for the review. Again, not a whole lot going on. Next week, we'll pick up arrays, array lists. So the arrays should be review. Array lists may or may not have been review. We'll look at two-dimensional arrays and array lists, which you probably haven't seen. You might have seen. And then we'll pick up file input and output operations, which will be the focus of our project. Yeah, lots of cool ways to do things online. The online tool sets have gotten really good for playing games, which is really handy. So we did ours over Zoom for that. Though I'm excuse me, trying to run them in person now. Again, just it's nice to see a couple people doing it, best we can. It works out pretty well, I think. So we got miniatures. I had the custom miniatures done for our one group. They're super cool. Little color minis. I don't know. All sorts of fun. We've got all sorts of interesting things that you can do with them. So, all right, so that's Lab 0. So we got the rest of today to get that done and out of the way. You also have the syllabus quiz to take. I'm not going to bother with the quiz on chapters 1 through 6, the chapter quiz. That's just all review sort of stuff. But next week we'll start picking up our chapter quizzes. So every time we cover material out of the text, there'll be a quiz. That's your incentive to read it. It's open book, open notes, open internet, but it all comes literally right from the book. So you shouldn't have to Google anything. You should just, as you're reading, kind of know what belongs in what section. And if you get a question about a given topic, you can go find it in that section, if that makes sense. Okay. So we should be in pretty good shape. I think the calendar's up to date here in terms of what's due when. So the syllabus quiz by the end of next Tuesday, the lab before the start of Thursday. So generally labs and projects will be due before class starts so I can go over the answer to them. Quizzes I'll give you till 11:59 p.m. That gives me one last chance to remind you to take it, that sort of thing, because not everyone's going to remember to do it before class starts. So hopefully that's additional, a little bit extra time just in case you need it here. We can go from there. All right. Other thoughts, questions, concerns? If not, you folks are all set. I'll go ahead and I'll stop streaming here. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my busy days, so I don't have any standing office hours. I can try and squeeze in appointments or meetings by appointment if you need to. You can suggest a couple times when you contact me, and I'll see what I can do. But I've got a morning class, afternoon class or two. One of them might just be like a quick little seminar, and then an evening class. So I'm all over the place on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mondays and Wednesdays are a little bit more open. I picked up a new Monday afternoon class, so Monday's just like between those two. So it will be a fun semester. So look forward to working with all of you. Again, please feel free to reach out if there's anything I can do to help. That's literally why they pay me here. If all you're going to do is watch recordings, you could just go out to like some site with recordings and watch the recordings. So, all right, you folks take care. And let me put on our little ending screen here. Nope, not starting soon, ending. Yep, so Twitch only saves them for 45 days, but I export them all out to YouTube. So all the streams will get exported to YouTube. You can watch them anytime. Yep. All right, you folks take care. Don't forget to get your coffee. Maybe drink enough to get some jitters, or maybe not go quite so far. So, and I'll see you folks on Tuesday. Take care.